taking over your uncle's game. You know me. I like to play a little.
A little. Forget it.
In the vast and morally complex landscape of The Sopranos, the collision between the criminal underworld and the civilian often results in collateral damage.
I don't do business with outside friends. You understand.
But rarely is that destruction as intimate, self-inflicted, and tragic as the fall of Davey Scatino. Through a close analysis of 4 pivotal scenes, the confrontation in his sporting goods store, the negotiation in the hotel hallway, the disastrous poker game, and the final reckoning in the bathroom, we witness the systematic dismantling of a suburban father's life. Davey is the archetype of the happy wanderer, a man drifting through life with a dangerous naivety, singing a song of denial while walking into the mouth of a wolf.
Hey, buddy. Davey. Saw your wife out there alone. I figured you for the trotters.
We'll explore how Davey's reliance on nostalgia and his fundamental misunderstanding of the mafia's predatory capitalism lead him to cross a threshold from which there is no return, transforming him from a friend into a financial resource to be consumed. The tragedy begins not in a dark alley, but in the brightly lit, orderly aisles of Ramsey Sports and Outdoors. This setting is crucial. It represents Davey's legitimacy, his standing in the community, and the seemingly solid foundation of his life. He is surrounded by the trappings of middle-class leisure tents, coolers, fishing rods, objects that signify safety and recreation. Into this sterile environment walks Richie, a force of pure, antiquated violence.
A problem?
No, I'm just breaking your kid's balls.
The visual contrast is stark. Richie, in his leather jacket and menacing demeanor, looks like an invasive species in Davey's meticulously organized retail space.
Keep him coming.
Hey, Rich, that envelope's too C-shy. I'll catch up on it next week.
No good, Davey.
The dialogue in this scene establishes the central flaw in Davey's character, his inability to perceive the lethal seriousness of his situation. When Richie confronts him about a light envelope, Davey's response is shockingly casual.
You know, I took a second on the house, didn't calculate it into my budgets. No biggie. It's just a stutter step.
He treats Richie like a difficult vendor rather than a sociopathic loan shark. It's just a stutter step, Davey says. This phrase, borrowed from sports vernacular, is a linguistic shield Davey uses to minimize his reality. A stutter step is a momentary hesitation, a tactical move in a game. By applying this term to a mob debt, Davey is attempting to reframe his delinquency as a minor, manageable hiccup in an otherwise smooth operation. He speaks of taking a second on the house and calculating it into the budget, employing the language of legitimate finance to describe a transaction that exists entirely outside the law. Davey believes that the rules of the visible world budgets, mortgages, reasonable delays, apply to the underworld. He is fatally wrong. Richie operates on a different frequency. His response is a cold reminder of the mathematics of usury.
Like I said, it's no biggie.
Difference gets tacked on to the principal. You know that.
To Richie, money is a living thing that must grow. Stagnation is theft. When Davey tries to brush off Richie's anger with,
Come on, Rich, that's not necessary.
he is making a category error. He believes he is in a negotiation between peers. He fails to see that in this dynamic he has no leverage. He is prey attempting to chide a predator for baring its teeth. The most significant moment in this initial scene occurs when Richie explicitly bans Davey from his games.
Don't take this personally, but I don't want to see your face at any of my games until you're caught up.
A rational actor would view this prohibition as a terrifying warning, a sign that the water is too deep. Davey, however, interprets it through the lens of his own ego. He sees it as a social exclusion, a slight to his reputation as a player, rather than a protective measure designed to save him from himself.
Yeah, I know, but it's just...
I know, it's just a stutter step.
This fundamental misinterpretation of the mob's intent, confusing their territorial warnings for social snobbery, sets Davey on a path to seek higher authority, leading him directly to the executive game and Tony Soprano.
Yeah, I heard Tony was here, Soprano.
Do I know you?
Yeah, you know me.
If the scene in the sporting goods store is the warning, the scene in the hotel hallway is the transgression. It represents the mythological threshold, the point where the hero, or in this case, the tragic fool, leaves the safety of the known world and enters the dangerous unknown. Davey arrives at the Tiliami Motel, seeking entry into the high-stakes executive game.
Davey, I was just driving by. I thought I'd stop and say hello.
The hallway is dimly lit, a transitional space between the public world and the private, violent sphere of the mafia. When Tony Soprano opens the door and sees Davey, his reaction is complex. There is annoyance, certainly, but also a flicker of genuine protective instinct.
Think I can take these guys or what?
Davey, this isn't a game for you.
It is a rare moment of honesty from the mob boss. Tony understands the ecosystem of that room. He knows it is populated by sharks. He knows that Davey, for all his bravado, is a minnow. Davey's response to this gatekeeping is to weaponize the past. This is his fatal strategy.
Hey, do I have to show your high school prom picture of these guys? All kidding aside.
He jokes, invoking a shared history that he believes grants him immunity. He appeals to Tony, the kid he cut class with, the friend he played basketball with, ignoring Tony Soprano, the boss of the North Jersey Mafia. Davey is leveraging nostalgia as currency. He assumes that their shared adolescence creates a bond of equality that transcends their current realities. He uses phrases like,
I appreciate your position, but come on, Tony, I'm a big boy.
mimicking the language of respect while fundamentally disrespecting Tony's authority. Tony's resistance here is critical to understanding the moral weight of the episode. He explicitly draws a line in the sand.
I don't do business with outside friends. You understand.
This statement is a clear demarcation of boundaries. Tony compartmentalizes his life into business and friendship, and he knows that mixing the two usually results in the destruction of the latter. By insisting on crossing this line, Davey is unknowingly asking Tony to dissolve their friendship and view him strictly as a business opportunity. He is volunteering to be exploited. The turning point of the hallway scene is Davey's desperate plea.
Oh, come on, can't you float me? You know, short term.
Davey, don't say short if you don't mean short. Whole kidding aside.
He is asking for credit for 5 boxes of ZD, $5,000, based solely on their personal relationship. He promises it is short term. Tony's reaction is a masterclass in subtle menace. He asks,
You understand what I'm saying to you?
this is the final exit ramp. Tony is giving Davey one last chance to recognize the gravity of the transaction. If Davey takes the money, the dynamic shifts irrevocably. He will no longer be Davey the friend. He will be Davey the debtor. When Davey agrees, saying,
Yeah, of course.
he effectively signs his own death warrant. He enters the room believing he has won a victory of social access, unaware that he has just walked into a trap of his own making. He is blinded by the glamour of the executive game, seeing it as a VIP club rather than a slaughterhouse. Once inside the suite, the atmosphere shifts from the tension of the hallway to the seductive, smoke-filled allure of the game itself.
Christopher, give him 5 boxes of ZD.
Okay, fellas, make room.
This scene illustrates the siren song that lures the happy wanderer to his doom. For Davey, the executive game represents the pinnacle of masculinity and cool. The presence of Frank Sinatra Jr. acts as a powerful cultural signifier, validating Davey's delusion that he has ascended to a higher social stratum. He is no longer a suburban dad selling coolers. He is a high roller rubbing elbows with legends.
Was that Frank Sinatra Jr. in there?
He is intoxicated not just by the gambling, but by the proximity to this dark, romanticized power. However, the reality of the room is far colder than Davey perceives. The camera captures the stark difference between the professionals and the amateur. The mobsters, Silvio, Johnny Sack, are calm, predatory, and focused. Davey is manic, sweating, and overeager. His dialogue betrays his insecurity. He is too loud, too familiar, needing to be acknowledged, needing to be seen as part of the tribe.
So there's a lot of money in sporting goods, huh?
Yeah, Frank, but I tell you, Nike has its stores, the NBA has its own stores. It cuts in.
When he orders the ZT, he treats the loan like monopoly money, completely disconnected from the labor required to earn it in the legitimate world. He is playing a role, acting out a fantasy of the degenerate gambler, without understanding the consequences. The arrival of Richie acts as the shattering of this fantasy.
Look at this fucking lineup.
The tension in the room spikes immediately. To the other players, Richie is a known variable, a dangerous peer. To Davey, he is a ghost from the past he thought he had outrun. The confrontation that follows is brutal and swift.
Hi, Rich.
Richie, upon seeing Davey, doesn't see a player. He sees a rebellious debtor. When Richie lunges across the table and chokes Davey, the violence is shocking in its immediacy. It rips away the veneer of the gentleman's game. Crucially, Tony's reaction to this violence reveals the true hierarchy of values in his world. Tony screams at Richie.
Let me fucking embarrass you. Outside now, I want to talk.
Tony's anger is entirely institutional. He is furious that Richie violated the sanctity of the executive game, that he disrupted the flow of commerce and the atmosphere of exclusivity. Davey's physical safety is irrelevant. He is merely collateral damage in a dispute between capos. In this moment, the audience sees what Davey cannot. He is not a person in this room. He is an object, a disruption, a mush. The glamour is gone, replaced by the ugly, chaotic reality of mob violence. The narrative arc culminates in the devastating final scene in the motel bathroom. If the hallway was the threshold and the game was the transgression, the bathroom is the judgment.
Everything all right?
The visual language here is claustrophobic and harsh. Davey is washing his face, a ritualistic attempt to cleanse himself of the night's disaster. He is stuck for 45 boxes of ZD. The magnitude of the debt has finally crashed down on him. When Tony enters the bathroom, the transformation is complete.
Wow, he was pissed.
I'm gonna let you sleep 1 day.
The Tony from high school is gone, replaced entirely by the boss.
Then you're gonna get the fuck up and you're gonna go get my $45,000.
Davey, in a pathetic attempt to reset the dynamic, tries to pivot to small talk.
So you never told me how your kid made out at Bowden.
He is grasping for the safety of their shared suburban existence, trying to remind Tony that they are both fathers, both men with families and hopes for their children. He is trying to humanize himself, to appeal to Tony's empathy.
Would you like anything else?
Tony is stating that their history is now irrelevant. It is a liability. He is stripping Davey of his identity as a friend and reducing him to a debtor. It is a moment of psychological annihilation. Tony refuses to let Davey hide behind the good old days. This is the mob's version of personal responsibility. Tony frames the events as the result of Davey's free will. He conveniently omits the fact that he enabled the addiction, that he approved the credit when he knew Davey couldn't pay, and that he lured him into a game he had no hope of winning. Tony absolves himself of guilt. He washes his hands of the moral implications of destroying his friend's life. Then comes the mechanics of the bust out. Tony outlines the terms with ruthless efficiency. Davey, who in the first scene worried about a stutter step in his budget, is now facing a financial burden that is mathematically impossible to sustain. He has essentially sold his business to Tony Soprano in exchange for 1 night of excitement. The irony is unbearable. Davey has just gambled away the money meant for his son's tuition. He has sacrificed his child's future on the altar of his own ego and addiction. Tony's reaction to this news is silence. He does not care. The juxtaposition of Eric's bright future at Georgetown with Davey's ruin in a sordid motel bathroom highlights the total devastation of the Scatino family. The happy wanderer has wandered off a cliff, dragging his family down with him.
Tony fucking Soprano. It's a bust out.
Season 2, Episode 10. Appropriately titled Bust Out. This episode serves as the harrowing culmination of Davey Scatino's arc, focusing relentlessly on the methodical, parasitic extraction of every ounce of value from his legitimate business, Ramsey Sports and Outdoors. By this point in the narrative, the illusion of Davey Scatino as a high-rolling player is entirely dead. He is no longer the delusional suburban father attempting to bluff his way through Tony Soprano's executive game, nor is he the man who thought a stutter step could explain away a loan shark debt. The glamour and the romanticized danger of the mob have been violently stripped away, leaving only the cold mathematics of debt and extortion. Davey has transitioned from a civilian seeking a thrill to a host organism being systematically drained by a parasite. Davey Scatino's storyline in this episode is the ultimate tragedy of the American suburb, the realization that the safety of the middle class is a fragile construct, easily dismantled by those who operate outside its rules. To understand the profound tragedy of Bust Out, one must first recognize what Ramsey Sports and Outdoors represents.
Hey, pal, with the rum lotion. Put 3 cases of that in my car.
Got it.
For a civilian like Davey, a storefront is not just a mechanism for generating income, it is the physical manifestation of his identity, his social standing, and his legacy. It is a place of bright fluorescent lights, orderly aisles, and family recreation, the very antithesis of the dark, clandestine spaces where the mafia traditionally operates. In this episode, the sanctity of that suburban space has been completely violated.
No, I want another 14 gross to the model number 4784. Just ship them. I'll worry about selling them.
Davey is no longer the owner of the store in anything but name. He is a hostage within his own domain. The mob does not merely take his money, they occupy his territory. This occupation is a visual representation of how the predatory forces of mafia capitalism infiltrate and hollow out legitimate American enterprises. The contrast between the setting and the actions taking place within it creates a pervasive sense of dread.
Red. Fuck blue. Red sells.
What it is?
Davey thought he was a businessman navigating a tough economy, but in Bust Out, he is forced to realize that he is actually prey that has been cornered in its own den. Every interaction he has with Tony and Richie within these walls serves to reinforce his total loss of agency and the evaporation of his manhood.
He says take 3 gross of the blue coolers. He'll give us a price on the red.
He's never getting paid anyway.
Tony and Richie have effectively transformed a legitimate, family-oriented storefront into a criminal logistics hub. The spatial dynamics in the office are suffocating and deliberately designed to visually communicate Davey's complete emasculation. When we observe these scenes, Tony and Richie dominate the physical space. They sit comfortably, often eating Davey's food, barking orders, making phone calls to their associates, and casually discussing the logistics of fencing stolen goods. They are comfortable, they are in their element. Davey, conversely, is reduced to a sweating, trembling secretary. He hovers nervously, physically marginalized in the very room where he used to be the ultimate authority. His posture is slumped, his eyes are darting. He is experiencing the acute physiological symptoms of a man in a state of permanent panic.
I don't fucking work to move some picnic coolers.
Nobody has a fucking idea how much they cost.
The underlying message is a devastating, mocking reminder of Davey's absolute impotence. He is the boss, only insofar as his signature is legally required to commit federal fraud. By forcing Davey to sign the purchase orders, the mobsters are making him the architect of his own demise. He is digging his own grave, and Tony is simply handing him the shovel. When Davey weakly attempts to assert a boundary, expressing anxiety about the sheer volume of the orders, and knowing that his creditors will soon flag his accounts, he is met with absolute, terrifying disdain.
Davey, how we doing them books of airline tickets?
Want to raise a red flag with the travel agency? A sporting goods store charges airline tickets in bulk?
He is trying to apply the logic of legitimate business to a criminal plundering, failing to realize that his credit rating is not something Tony wants to protect. It is the exact resource Tony is mining.
When's one of these vendors gonna realize I'm never gonna pay him and call the cops?
When your fucking credit runs out, Diamond Jim.
He is spoken to not as a debtor, not even as an employee, but as a disobedient animal. Davey is forced to sit at his own desk, pick up his own pen, and meticulously author his own financial ruin. The true horror of these office scenes is not the threat of physical pain, but the psychological torture of a man watching the lifeblood of his family's future being packed into cardboard boxes, knowing he is entirely powerless to stop it.
Get on the fucking horn and order, unless you're ready to pay us the principal you owe us.
The mundane nature of the goods, water, coolers, tickets, contrasts sharply with the lethal seriousness of the crime, underscoring how the mafia perverts everyday commerce into a weapon of destruction. Every time Davey places an order for another pallet of Ramlasa, the walls of the prison cell he is destined for grow thicker. Perhaps the most potent and pathetic visual metaphor in the entire series occurs when Tony arrives at the sporting goods store early in the morning.
Come on.
The retail floor, once a symbol of middle-class recreation and stability, is largely barren. It resembles a looted city, stripped of its valuable inventory. Amidst this devastation, Tony finds Davey sleeping inside a bright, nylon, child-sized display tent set up on the showroom floor. This image is a brilliant piece of scene composition that conveys volumes of character psychology without a single word of dialogue. Davey, a grown man, a business owner, a husband, and a father, has crawled inside this artificial shelter to escape the crushing reality of his life. The tent represents the ultimate psychological regression. Having destroyed his actual home through his gambling addiction and the subsequent mafia entanglement, Davey seeks refuge in a mock-up of a wilderness shelter.
What are you doing here?
Could ask you the same fucking question.
It's my store.
He has retreated to an infantile state, attempting to hide from the monsters under a literal flap of fabric. It mimics the imagery of a womb, a desperate, subconscious desire to be unborn, to unmake the catastrophic decisions that led him to this point. The tent highlights his fundamental immaturity. The same naivety that made him think he could handle the executive game is now causing him to literally hide from the daylight. He is a boy playing camper while his adult world burns to ashes around him. He is trying to shrink himself down so small that the mob might forget he exists. When Tony unzips the tent, it is a violent intrusion of reality into Davey's pathetic sanctuary. Tony looks down at him not with anger or even pity, but with a cold biological curiosity. The emotional and thematic climax of Davey's arc in this episode, and arguably his entire run on the show, occurs in the immediate aftermath of the tent scene. Davey finally confronts the horror of his situation. He still inexplicably clings to the idea that Tony possesses a conscience regarding their shared youth, and he asks the question that has been haunting him.
You told me not to get in the game. Why'd you let me do it?
Davey is begging for an acknowledgement of betrayal. He is asking Tony to admit that he violated the unwritten social contract of their friendship. He expects Tony to show remorse, to offer a justification, or perhaps to finally acknowledge the profound cruelty of what is happening to his family. Davey is seeking a human connection in a dynamic that has become entirely transactional. He wants Tony to admit that he trapped him. Tony's response is a masterclass in sociopathic rationalization and stands as one of the defining monologues of the entire series. Tony does not yell. Instead, he leans in and calmly explains the fundamental, unalterable law of his universe.
Well, I knew you had this business here, Davey. It's my nature.
He doesn't hide behind excuses or pretend it was an accident. He leans into the accusation. He then delivers the fatal blow.
Frog and the scorpion, you know?
Tony invokes the fable of the scorpion and the frog to perfectly articulate his worldview. In the fable, the scorpion stings the frog halfway across the river, dooming them both, simply because it is in its nature to do so. Tony is explicitly stating that Davey was never a friend. He was an unexploited resource. Tony allowed Davey into the poker game precisely because he knew Davey would lose, and he knew that when Davey lost, Ramsey Sports and Outdoors could be bled dry.
What's the end? Planned bankruptcy. This is how a guy like me makes a living. This is my bread and butter.
This speech strips away the romanticized veneer of the mafia as an honorable brotherhood. Tony acknowledges that he is an apex predator. He operates on instinct and opportunity, completely devoid of bourgeois morality. Tony's absolute lack of malice makes the destruction infinitely more terrifying. To Tony, ruining Davey's life isn't personal malice. It is just biology. It is the natural order of things. The lion does not hate the gazelle. It simply eats it.
When this is over, you're free to go. You can go anywhere you want.
The final agonizing layer of Davey's arc in Bust Out is his realization of his own profound moral corruption. As the episode progresses, the financial ruin becomes secondary to the spiritual rot. Davey is no longer just a passive victim of extortion. To survive the immediate threat of physical violence from Richie and Tony, he has become an active, daily participant in massive, coordinated fraud. When Davey confesses the reality of the situation to his brother-in-law, Vic Musto, the full weight of his descent is crystallized in a single devastating realization.
Jesus Christ, David, where the hell have you been? David, Christine knows you're gambling again. She told me. You broke.
This is the moment the infection becomes terminal. The mob has not just taken Davey's money, his inventory, and his store. They have fundamentally taken his identity as a law-abiding citizen.
How much did you fucking lose?
For Christ's sakes, Vic, everything. The savings, the business, everything.
By forcing him to sign those purchase orders and fence stolen goods, Tony and Richie have dragged Davey down into the mud with them. He has crossed a moral event horizon. The self-loathing in his voice is palpable. He realizes that even if he survives the physical and financial reality of the bust out, he can never go back to being the man he was. He is fully complicit in the crimes being committed.
I got involved with some bad people. Tony fucking Soprano. It's a bust out.
The happy wanderer has been transformed into a desperate, sweating fraudster, jumping at shadows and waiting for the inevitable federal indictments to drop. He has lost his store, his dignity, and finally his understanding of himself as a good man. He has become the very thing that destroyed him. While both Tony and Richie are the architects of Davey's demise in this episode, analyzing how each mobster handles Davey provides deeper insight into the nightmare he faces. Davey is trapped between two distinct brands of sociopathy. To Richie, Davey is a nuisance that owes him money, and he treats him with the open contempt of a loan shark who feels his time is being wasted. Tony Soprano, however, represents a far more insidious and terrifying brand of management. Tony understands that a bust-out requires the victim to remain functional enough to continue signing papers. Tony's interactions with Davey, such as praising him in the tent or calmly explaining his nature, are forms of psychological manipulation designed to keep the host organism alive just long enough to extract the final drop of blood. Tony's faux gentleness is infinitely more damaging than Richie's screaming because it forces Davey to confront the utter sociopathy of a man he once called a friend. Richie is a thug. Tony is a predator who smiles while he eats you. Season 2, Episode 10, Bust Out, serves as a masterful, agonizing conclusion to the active phase of Davey Scatino's destruction. By focusing entirely on the mechanics of the extortion and the psychological degradation of the victim, the episode provides a brutally honest, unvarnished look at the reality of mob capitalism. Davey's arc in this specific episode is a relentless, inescapable downward spiral, from the physical subjugation in his own back office, to the infantile, desperate regression inside the display tent, to the horrifying realization of Tony's predatory nature, and finally, to the tearful, broken acceptance of his own corrupted soul. The episode leaves Davey as a hollowed-out shell of a man. The bust out is complete, not just in the ledger books of Ramsey Sports and Outdoors, but in the total eradication of David Scatino's life, dignity, and future. He is a man who played a game he did not understand, against men whose very nature is to consume the weak. In the end, there is no redemption for the happy wanderer, only the grim reality of the scorpion's sting. The arc of Davey Scatino in The Happy Wanderer is a masterclass in tragic storytelling. We witness the systematic destruction of a man who refuses to see the world as it is. Davey's downfall is not merely a result of bad luck or gambling addiction, it is a result of his delusion. He believed that he could flirt with the darkness without being consumed by it. He believed that his history with Tony Soprano was a shield, failing to realize that to a predator, a friend is simply prey that is easier to catch. Davey speaks in metaphors of sports and business. Tony and Richie speak in the language of ownership and violence. By the time Davey realizes his mistake, in the cold light of the bathroom mirror, it is too late. He has been digested. The Happy Wanderer serves as a grim cautionary tale. There are no friends in the executive game, only winners and losers, and the house. Tony Soprano always wins. The nostalgia that Davey clung to was a phantom. The debt, however, is real, and it will cost him everything.